Could you tell us about the Early Day Gas Engine and Tractor Association and what brings you here?
Well, the Ag Show was what brought us onto it, and the association is a national association, and we're branch 248 of Central Oregon. We have about 40 active members. We love to preserve and show and display the old equipment, and so that people can get an idea of the way it used to be. Now we've got tractors all around us as the way it is today, but this is what they had to do in the old days. And as you'll see, the stuff is still functional, and it's a lot of fun to enjoy and to scrounge them up out of the scrap piles and try to sand them up and get them pretty, or leave them in their natural patina, which is a lot of these are that way. But that's what we do.
And how old are some of these pieces?
A lot of them are they're in the late 1800s. The majority of stuff we see here today is in the early 20s, teens and 20s.
And the variety, what are some of the functions? What's the purpose of some of these pieces?
I would have to say the main job that most of them did was pump water. And then they sawed wood, as you'll be able to see later. They ground corn, and I've got a bone crusher over there that crushed the old bones and ground them up after they were at the slaughterhouse. Just multiple, anywhere you see an electric motor doing something today, or a small Briggs and Stratton type motor, that's what these did.
And where did you come upon these pieces? Do you collect them, or how is it that they came in your possession?
You go around asking. You have to get off the pavement usually and get out into the old farms, and you just ask the guys if they've got any of that kind of equipment, and a lot of times they'll just give it to you. And then once it's in collections, then we sell it and trade it back and forth amongst ourselves, and kind of keep it going that way.
And in order to get it working, do you have to find parts for it? Do you jerry-rig certain things? Or I'm sure some of these things aren't made anymore, the parts.
Correct. And so you have to either know a machinist or a foundry to reproduce a lot of the pieces. We'll machine ourselves or fabricate, and find a foundry to cast them first.
And how often do you come upon new pieces that are added to your collection?
Weekly. I just unloaded one this morning. Found it by accident last week and unloaded it this morning in my yard.
And then with the group of 40, do you work on them in teams or with others, on your own?
Independently, mostly independently. And there's a few of us in our hobby that are really experienced in other areas. And so we'll use their skills and help the ones that don't have that, or maybe they don't have a lathe or a drill press or whatever, and so those people will help the other people.
So are these pieces individually owned?
Mostly, yes.
Are there any particular pieces that you just love to come across that would help complete your set?
Always. There's always that rare engine, the hen's tooth, that you just never see, and when you find one of those, why, it's really fun.
I would imagine that the hunt itself is a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, the hunt itself is fun. You meet a lot of interesting people.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
See what I mean? That's good stuff.
Did I do good?
Yeah, so I think so.
Yeah. You can get a hard on enough.
But I've got Photoshop.
Right here, check. I can go down to Redwood. He said it only goes 300 feet, so I'm pretty sure I'm past that.
This was shining in the grass.
Take two.
Okay.
I've been hearing more about working cow dogs lately. Could you tell us about the history a little bit and where you see cow dog working going?
That's a great question. I'm a border collie guy, so I deal with border collies pretty much exclusively. They've been breeding border collies for about the last 400 years in Britain. And since they've came to the United States about 60 years ago, prevalently, Americans have been breeding cow dogs. The border collies from Britain were all sheep dogs, and Americans have been breeding for almost exclusively bite in those last 60 or so years, and now they've kind of got a little too far on some of that. There are lines of border collies that are, I call them attack dogs. I mean, they bite, and that's not real helpful on the ranch a lot of times. You know, unless you got a bull in the brush or something, you need a little finesse. And so a lot of us are kind of moving back to a little more of the herding and away from the bite a little bit. But in the western United States, the last 20 years, the quality of cow dogs has just exploded. There are really, really fantastic cow dogs all over the place. They're everywhere. You know, there's a lot of people breeding them, a lot of really, really good trainers that are training them. And if you go to some sales, you know, like Red Bluff Sale or Pendleton Cattle Bear and some of them, you can pick up really, really well-trained cow dogs that are a huge asset on the ranch. You know, you might have to pay 10 or 20,000 for them, but they're worth it. They replace 3 guys on a horse, and they show up every day. They're not hungover. They're not drunk. They don't quit if you yell at them. All they want to do is work all day, every day. They are such an asset for any ranch, or a lot of people, you know, like myself, that like to dabble in the cow dog trials a little bit. It's a blast. It's a lot of fun, and that's kind of, that industry is really growing as well. There's people that maybe don't have a big ranch, but they got a little acreage and they just want something to do. They love dogs and they see it done, and it's so amazing that they want to do it. And I mean, it's addicting once you get started. It's so much fun to see what these good dogs can do. It's incredible.
And so people who won't be able to see the demonstration, what would they be seeing if they were here? What is it actually that the dogs do when they're out on the ranch working?
Well, I'm going to try to showcase control. The whole idea is the cows go where the dog wants them to, and the dog wants them to go where I want them to go. You know, it's a partnership. Whether you're at the trial or on the ranch, you're trying to get the cows from point A to point B as quickly and hopefully as stress-free as possible. And if I have control of the dog will have control of the stock. And I'm going to step through from the puppy stage. I've got 4, they're about 12-week-old puppies that I'll put in here on these sheep. And he's 9 months old, I'll put him on the sheep, and I got a brother to him that's 1.5 years, I'll put on the sheep. And then I'll take these cows outside in a big open area. I mean, if I didn't have control of them, they'd be in downtown Redmond. But I will, with the dog, I will put them through some obstacles and wherever I want to, and people will be able to see the control I have of the dog and the control the dog has of the cattle, and just the intensity of these dogs. I mean, their desire to work stock is far exceeding what the human mind can understand.
When you have several dogs, how does each dog know that a particular command might be for him or her?
So I start my dogs at a young age. I don't let them work with other dogs. They start out all on their own, so they're working for me, with me, and they don't have any help. And as they get older, before I take them out, they'll load up on my 4-wheeler or wherever, and they don't get off and go to work until I say their name. And once they're down and working, I just say the command, which is the same for all the dogs, and they'll take off. Once they're seasoned, you know, they're 4 or 5 years old, and not only are they broke, they know all the commands, but they've been there, done that. They've seen cows, they've seen a lot of situations. I don't have to tell them much. They see it the same time I see it, and they react and do. I mean, on the ranch, I don't have to tell them anything. I'll just say their name. You know, I'll make my dogs, if I'm on a 4-wheeler, they'll be riding behind me on the 4-wheeler. I'll just say the name, and they know what needs done, and they'll go do it. Or if I'm on my horse, I make them stay behind me. And as they get older and broker, this is a little hard to do because they're down on the ground and they can move. When I say a command, they all want to go. I mean, that's what they want to do, is work. But I'll train them to where if I say your name, you get to go. If I don't say your name, you got to stay there. And that's really hard on them because they want to go really bad.
Am I correct that cow dogs have become more popular more recently? What do you attribute that to?
People have just seen what they're capable of. Like I was saying earlier, it's harder and harder to find help. That ranchers are no exception to that rule. In fact, it might even be worse for us because most of us live in areas where the labor pool is so much smaller to pick from, and you can't find reliable help. Well, if I go buy a $20,000 cow dog, that sounds kind of expensive, right? But now I don't need to hire 2 guys to help me move. I can go out there on my 4-wheeler, on a bicycle, on a horse, on foot, or sit in my pickup and not do anything, and just give the dog commands, and the dog does it all. It's worth $20,000. You know, you get work done. That's the whole point. And people have been, the trials have grown a lot, and so people see dogs that are capable of that, and they start thinking, well, you know, that don't sound like that bad a deal. And it's really kind of exploding.
Are cow dogs if not breed, are the dogs bred in a certain way that brings out that quality in them?
Oh yeah, just like cows or horses or anything else, certain breeders breed for certain qualities. Personally, my top quality I'm breeding for is intelligence. I want a very intelligent dog, first and foremost. Then I want power and other things down the line, you know, but a lot of people breed for strictly power, or more specifically bite, and that was what I was getting at earlier, that it's kind of gone too far with the bite, and we got to bring it back down to reality here. It's not helpful to have a dog that is just attacking your stock constantly. It does not help you get the cows from point A to point B efficiently. We got to have some control and some back off a little bit. So it just depends on the kind of dog you're looking for. You know, you got to think, what am I looking for in a dog, and then find a breeder that's breeding for those qualities.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good job, Dad.
Her a slam.
I think maybe